Hi, I'm Fred Burton. Welcome to Stratfor's Essential Geopolitics podcast. I'm here today with Thomas Abi-Hanna, who is one of our global security analysts. Thomas, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Fred.
From a geopolitical perspective, why should we care about Hezbollah?
Well, simply put, Hezbollah is one of the strongest, if not the strongest, non-state actor in the world. It has operations...
In the world?
In the world, yeah. It has operations in Lebanon, in Syria, in Yemen. It's involved in conflicts in all three of those areas. It has a multifaceted trafficking network around the world in South America, West Africa, elsewhere, that's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and it's Iran's strongest proxy in the Middle East.
How does Hezbollah fit within the U.S. and in the Iranian aspect?
So they are a key part of that. As I mentioned earlier, they are Iran's strongest proxy in the region. Therefore, within the Lebanese context, it's borne the brunt of a lot of the U.S. sanctions on Lebanon, which have affected both Hezbollah, the Lebanese government, and the Lebanese economy as a whole. It poses a pretty significant threat to Israel, which is one of the U.S.'s strongest allies in the region. The group I mentioned earlier, how strong it was. It has over 100,000 rockets and missiles, which could be used in a conflict against Israel. So it's certainly a strategic, if not operational threat to Israel that it has to worry about all the time.
Now, we've seen over the years Hezbollah strike U.S. targets, and it's been a month since General Soleimani was killed by the United States. Mm-hmm. Why haven't we seen Hezbollah retaliate?
So I would say there's two parts of that. One is Hezbollah has historically bided its time when it's retaliated for actions either against it or against Iran, which is its benefactor. And then the other part of it, I would say, is Hezbollah's not necessarily going to retaliate directly for the killing of Soleimani.
Proxies, maybe?
So Iran has other proxies that it can use. Like I mentioned earlier, Hezbollah is its strongest proxy. And you did have a speech by Secretary General, the leader of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, say that Hezbollah was going to be involved in the retaliation. It would be against U.S. military targets, but he didn't really specify how that retaliation would take place or where it would take place.
Now, I know from just some of the investigations I've worked from, bombings of U.S. embassies and hostage takings, that Hezbollah has a lot of different kinds of tools in their terrorist toolkit if they decided to utilize them. So what do you think we would see in the event of a Hezbollah retaliation against U.S. interests?
So there are, like you mentioned, a lot of options that it has. I believe it's documented in a book called Beirut Rules, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Yes, I am.
So we've had past attacks that have taken place months, if not years, after the initial event. So Hezbollah's retaliation isn't necessarily going to be constrained by time or geography. So when you had the killing of the first Secretary General in 1992, the group retaliated with two different bombings in Argentina on the other side of the world in 1992, which took place several months after, and then 1994. So that's over 2 years after. And then in the early 2000s, you had a string of Israeli, or what are attributed to Israeli assassinations against Iranian scientists, nuclear scientists, and the retaliation to that by Iran involved Hezbollah. But it wasn't against Israel in Israel. It was against targets in Bulgaria, so Eastern Europe, Georgia, not Georgia, Atlanta, but Georgia south of Russia, and then also other incidents in both India and Thailand.
So they have that global reach.
Yes, absolutely. And over the last 2 years, we've actually seen Hezbollah operatives either targeted, plots thwarted, or other things of that nature in the US, the UK. There was an incident in London where Hezbollah operatives were arrested while preparing explosives. And then you've also had, within the last year, an incident in Uganda. So way outside the typical orbit of what you would think would be the U.S.-Iranian rivalry. But as we've seen with historical precedents and then the recent incidents I just talked about, the retaliation could honestly take place anywhere.
Well, thank you, Thomas. For those of you who like more information about our analysis on Hezbollah or Iran, I would encourage you to visit stratfor.com/subscribe. And I'm Fred Burton.